Welcome to the Cult Classic Horror Show. Every week, you can have the conversations you've always wanted to have about the films you love.
Shut up!
We're gonna get you. Not another peep.
Get rid of your distractions and prepare yourself.
Then lock your door. 5, 6, crucifix.
You got a big surprise coming to you. You're not going anywhere.
Welcome everybody to the Cult Classic Horror Show. Danny Bonin here with you.
And Scotty Bonin here with you guys.
We are the Blood Brothers. And
O'Neillio. And
Carmelo Camaro.
he almost forgot. He almost forgot. I saw
I
it.
almost
That was
forgot.
better.
I was giving a nice pause.
That was nice
know?
and jovial, too. Very nice and jovial end.
Very jovial. Did you go back to O'Neillio? I thought you were the Rob again.
Well, it's
Back and
sometimes I've changed all my social medias to O'Neillio now, so I don't want to change it back.
Whatever you identify as, Rob. That we want you to be whatever you identify.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
How
Today after my White Claw, I'm O'Neillio.
We don't want to put any labels on you.
O'Neillio is a pleasant and happier version of the Rob. I like everything. I finally found the sense of Rob Zombie's genius, and I'm now complete.
So that means you're O'Neillio today and not the Rub.
If you guys
No.
are paying attention, Rob has been lost to White Claw and has now changed his worldview on everything and just loves everything and everyone. I don't understand how that happens.
He's come over to the bright side. He's very, very happy.
It's my light.
He's coming to the light.
I just want to say before we get into things here that this is one of the first episodes where we are recording with video. So normally we don't all see each other, but we turned our cameras on. We're all looking at each other. That might bring some differences to the podcast. And also, if this video works, we'll see how well it works. We'll start using video on YouTube instead of just audio. So Christopher Elswick, our one person who listens and on YouTube, you're in luck.
Of course, it
Right.
might be just more than him, but we just know that he does on YouTube.
Shout out to Christopher, by the way, who told me I sounded like a little girl on the podcast. So I bought this new microphone with the screen and everything. Hopefully my voice is less of nails on a chalkboard now. I've got a little bass going, I think.
Yes.
Should be better.
Yeah,
Got the new mic, sounding good.
Okay, House. Here we are. House.
1985, 1986. It's arguable.
It's 86.
It's 86.
Let's get the rundown, Carmelo.
Do it.
All right. So for those of you who haven't seen House or who have not had a chance to rewatch it before the podcast, here's a brief summary so you can follow along with our brilliant insights for the next hour or so.
Of course.
The story picks up in this Victorian-style house where a woman has just hung herself. Her nephew is a famous author, a very Stephen King-esque kind of author who's very famous. His name is Roger Cobb, and he's recently divorced. There's a lot of mystery about kind of how he got there, and it's revealed slowly that his only child went missing in the house, and that presumably led to his divorce. He finds out about his aunt's death, and he goes to the house to try to write his next novel, which is going to be about his experiences and trauma in Vietnam. And while he's there, he discovers that his aunt was not in fact crazy, but rather the house is haunted. And what follows is a sort of a horror comedy. It definitely has some frights, but there's a lot of gags in there that are also really lighthearted. The whole movie has this lighthearted tone until finally Cobb is able to find his son. He realizes that an old army buddy who has a vendetta against him. His spirit kidnapped the boy and took him into the house. And in the end, Cobb is able to defeat the evil spirit and reunite with his family.
All right, no holes.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yes. No.
All right.
Yeah, it's a pretty short rundown for this. There's, a lot of it happens just here at the house. Not a lot of things happen outside of the house.
I will say, just before we jump into my page and a half of notes here that I have, because I did indeed buy the Blu-ray disc set that is UK release, but it does work in Region A, packed with all kinds of goodies, House 1 through 4. It's awesome. So I got the deets. I got the details.
Awesome.
Yeah, just first impressions. House. I saw it long ago, and I don't even barely remembered it. Like, it's one of those where you watch it and then things are sparking your memory and like, oh yeah, that, because I probably saw it when I was 12, 13 years old and haven't seen it once since then. So of course it's one of those, to me, it's one of those Blockbuster covers,
Oh yeah.
You used to walk through Blockbuster and that's like one of the covers that you just saw all the time and at one point rent just because of the cover,
You see the dangling hand without a body ringing the doorbell, which you never see in the movie, but it's a beautiful cover.
Of course.
Yeah, that was kind of my first experience with this movie, was seeing that cover on Amazon Prime, actually. It's the kind of thing where if I did see it at Blockbuster as a kid, I never took note. But that cover caught my eye, and I've been meaning to watch it. And then when we decided to cover it for the podcast, was my excuse. I think that hand, it never rings the doorbell, but is that the same hand that jumps out of the ground and grabs the kid in his nightmares in the beginning?
I think
so.
Yeah, I think it could be assumed that, although it doesn't look exactly like it. I think it's not as fat and
it doesn't have that ring on it. It has like that
well,
lady.
I'm not talking about the hand at the end of the movie or toward the middle. I'm talking about the very beginning.
Yeah.
He has like a nightmare.
Yes.
That's right.
Yeah, I bet you it is.
It
that
probably
one.
does look more like that hand.
It's like a Carrie moment where the hand comes out of the dirt.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it is that hand. It's where he's having that nightmare, and the hand pops out of the ground, and yeah, it looks more like that one for sure.
Is this one that you watched, Rob, long ago?
No.
Really?
I've seen pieces of it on TNT or TBS, but I don't think I've ever watched the whole movie.
Oh.
I loved it though, not just because of the White Claw.
It is because of the White Claw. You love everything now.
It's not my fault we're picking good movies all of a sudden. But no, especially the physical effects and everything about this movie was great.
Yeah, well.
Oh, yeah.
I like it.
Oh, yeah. I love this. Just like Danny said, it's one that I did watch long ago. And this is one I like. I thought I knew it better because I'm like, I got it mixed up with like other movies that have haunted houses. But then when I started watching it, it all like kind of came back to me. And the characters and kind of the comedic sequences, and then of course William Katt as the main character. I'm like, oh yeah, this guy. So it all came to fruition, and it's just a great time.
Fruition. All right.
Came to fruition.
All right, so I'm going to jump into some things here. I'm going to start with sort of the origins.
I have to do my rundown.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Come on,
excuse me. I don't want to step on toes here. Rob's rundown, please.
Bring your
continue.
rundown into
I worked
fruition.
really, really hard on this.
I'm sure you did.
You know what? I can see the sarcasm now because of the fucking camera.
Oh, Rob, this was sarcasm.
You know
what?
Rob,
you know what? I just won't even do it anymore.
Maybe don't be that way.
Don't do that. Don't do that to us. Rob may be a large, bearded, hairy, sacked man, but looking at him now, I usually don't look at him this long. Looking at him now, he's sort of got like a child face under that beard. I see like he's got a child face.
He's kind of has
he has a little Santa Claus nose.
Got the rosy Santa Claus cheeks.
Cherubic cheeks.
That's why I don't shave.
He's trying to front with those arm tattoos, but we all know we're looking at him right now.
Okay, House, 1986. Okay, We are taken back to the greatest decade, nay, I say the greatest year of that decade. That year brought us Huey Lewis and the News' greatest album, 4, the year the Cadillac Alante was introduced. And who could forget the movies like Aliens, Top Gun, Platoon, The Fly, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Highlander, Critters, Blue Velvet, and many more. I didn't know how many awesome movies came out in 86. But this movie we're watching is House, and as follows. We have one 80s opening with state-of-the-art reverse negative shots. We have jeans so tight they'd make Bruce Springsteen cry. We have William Catt and his hair. His hair is fucking phenomenal. We have one dead aunt who is crazy but not crazy. We have a flat-chested ex-wife. We have the greatest real estate agent of all time. We have one harpoon. We have Norm from Cheers. We have a toddler with a mullet, which looks just like the mullet I had in 1988. So it was really awesome. We have closet fishing. We have just piles upon piles of sweet, glorious flashbacks. We have the most incredible V-neck sweater of all time. That V-neck that he was wearing when he met Norm was like down to the tip of his dick.
That was deeper than my love for Rob.
Oh God, that V-neck was glorious.
Really
when
good.
I saw that, I watched this with my wife. When that scene came on, she looked at me and went, "I'm going to buy you one of those V-necks."
Yes.
I would wear it. I think I would wear it.
I don't think they still sell those things.
Oh, I'm sure you can get those made. You can
She'll
still buy
knit
those.
me one.
You can buy those of the Big Lebowski sweaters still.
Yeah.
We have Vietnam flashback scenes that were shot on the set of George of the Jungle. We have one Hellraiser closet. We have one Hellraiser closet monster. We have a possessed blue marlin and lawn tools. We have a murder by mistaken identity. One body disposal montage, which was just fucking awesome. We have one medicine cabinet gateway with tentacle monster. We have one exotic neighbor who tricks men into babysitting by pretending that she's interested in having sex with them, which she's not. We have we have a chimney tug of war. We have a vengeful Vietnam vet mutant ghost. We have one child POW. And in my opinion, which blew my mind, this has got to be the weakest R rating in the history of the MPAA. How is this movie rated R? We were watching it, and I was like, The Goonies is worse than this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't understand how
say
this movie is rated R.
Sure.
They talked about that too in the featurette about how you in this day at that day and age you had to have an R rating to be a legitimate horror movie, or no one was watching you. You weren't considered a horror movie. You didn't have the R rating. Since then,
isn't it funny how that like reversed and people got like, oh, they got to be PG-13 so more people will go see it, and then we went through that phase.
So kids and their high school friends can all go see it.
Now, nothing's rated because it's all on Netflix or Amazon, so.
No, I couldn't believe it was R rated. That's what blew my mind, that it was R rated. And then, I read somewhere that at one point it got tagged for an NC-17 rating.
What?
Yeah, so it got popped for NC-17 at one point. I can't remember the MPAA summary, but it was suggested sexual something or other.
Like every single horror
violence.
Seems like every single horror movie made from 75 to 89 originally had an NC-17 rating or an X rating.
It's because the MPAA is comprised entirely of everyone's aunt and her old, Catholic traditions. That's entirely that. Yeah. It's like 13 of them in council.
Yeah, because anything with blood or horror or gore has to have that rating, or at least come by that rating.
All right, I had to Google it to make sure that the rating was correct, because I saw it on Amazon and it blew my mind.
Yeah.
So the only thing that's remotely violent in this movie is when he shoots what turns out not to be his wife, but what he thinks is his wife and is actually like a creature.
Yeah.
Or vice versa.
Yeah.
Like gun violence is pretty intense. I thought the movie had taken a dark turn at that moment. And then right after that, it's back to comedy, and I realized she couldn't possibly be dead.
Yeah.
NC-17, not in your life.
Which is, not even close.
No.
Okay, it says right here, the movie House is rated R by the MPAA for language, sexual references, drug use, I don't remember seeing any, some violence, and brief nudity.
You know what? The drug use, I think in the Vietnam flashback, the guy is taking one hit.
Smoking a pipe.
Oh,
He's smoking a pipe.
That's not. That doesn't count.
Sexuality, is it like when the neighbor's in the pool and she's wearing a one-piece swimsuit, by the way?
Yeah.
And acts seductive. That's sexual.
It's got a deep back on it.
Yeah, it does.
All right. Let's
no language really either.
Yes. What else you got for us, Danny?
I got a bunch. I'm going to start from
Fire some off.
I'm going to start from the inception of this film. So yeah, obviously we have a lot of heavy hitters. That I say heavy hitters, but horror names as far as the crew goes. Steve Miner's the director. He's been involved with Friday the 13th, along with, I mean, it's basically the Friday the 13th crew. You got Steve Miner, you got Sean S. Cunningham producing. You have Harry Manfredini doing the music, or the score. And so yeah, it was.
I think I could have Pepsi challenged that. I think if you had played for me the score from House next to the score from Friday the 13th. I could have guessed it was the same guy.
Yeah, yeah. I think
in a good way. In a good way.
Yeah. Well, and Manfredini talked about how this was nice because he had just done, I think by this time he had done 3 Friday the 13th. And once you've done the first one, it's sort of like, it's the same thing. It's just chase, tension, then like run, and then tension, and then run, then tension, and it's just over and over and over, you know. Whereas in this film, it's such a different film, you know. So
because you have like the happy music, and then you have like the dooming music, and then back and forth.
So Steve Miner, who was he directed
Friday the 13th Part 2.
Part 2, okay. He hired Fred Decker, who. Fred Decker, Ethan Wiley, he's the more credited writer. Were friends in college, maybe even back to high school. A lot of these guys were like college buddies. Steve Miner was a little bit older, but Wiley, Decker, a few other of the crew. So anyway, sorry, Fred Decker had started writing this story because a group of them and their college friends were huge Twilight Zone nerds. Twilight Zone movie came out around that time, and they're like, hey, let's all write like a little Twilight Zone story, and then we'll mesh them together into sort of an anthology, you know. And Decker had started writing this one, which is basically about a Vietnam vet who's having flashbacks and also is haunted by someone he didn't do right by, and all this. Started working on it, never fully got into it because he got hired to write for Steve Miner for a Godzilla film that actually never got made. So Steve Miner traveled to Hong Kong, paid for the rights to do a Godzilla film. He said it just almost got made. He hired Fred Decker to write for it because he was young, he's early 20s, he was a go-getter, so he's like, yeah, I'll work with this guy. But it never got made. But they created the relationship, so Decker was hired to. Not hired. Decker actually brought this story. He never finished this story for their Twilight Zone thing. So his buddy Ethan Wiley was like, "Hey, you know that thing you started? We should make that into a feature." So he's like, "I'll go ahead and I'm gonna fuck with it a little bit." So he writes an entire script, shows it to Decker, and Decker's like, "Oh, that's great. Like, it's not really the way I would have done it. His would have been straight horror, more dreadful, not comedy." But he did go to Steve Miner and say, "Hey, my buddy wrote this script of an idea I had. I think it'd be a cool movie." And Steve Miner loved it, and that's sort of how this idea was born. He hit up Sean S. Cunningham, who he had worked with on Friday the 13th franchise, and they said it was pretty easy to get financing for. They did get financing basically off the poster. It wasn't the hand one at the time. It was basically the army guy, the skeleton guy.
Yeah,
holding
Big
up
Ben.
Yeah, he's like holding the house in one hand, and he's pointing at you in the other hand. It's sort of a play on the old Uncle Sam poster.
Oh yeah, and I saw that on Google.
And it says like "House needs you" or something like that. And it had a sexy girl and had some creatures. It was like an artist rendition, you know, nice and detailed, and that's basically what they said got on the financing. And then their marketing agency came up with the hand and the doorbell and all that, and they started going with that one. So that's sort of how things came together and initially got started. A lot of guys from
So Decker didn't have any humor at all in this. It was just supposed to be straight up like horror movie with like all scares. And then Wiley came in and like kind of rewrote the script and put the comedy in there.
Wrote the script. I mean, Decker had started on this short film, and that was it. So yeah. Anyways, that's how they got it together. Cunningham and Miner, I think, first worked together. They knew each other not only from Friday the 13th, but I believe they worked together on Last House on the Left. I don't know if Miner directed or not, but I think Cunningham must have had a hand in producing that. And
I think he had a producing credit.
Okay.
Wait, I thought Wes Craven directed that. Did he just produce it?
Yeah, so I know Wes Craven. Okay, so obviously Miner didn't direct it, but somehow he must have had something to do with it. Maybe he was like the fucking AD or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Who knows?
Right.
But I'm sure we could IMDb it.
I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah, see if Steve Miner did any work on Last House on the Left or Sean S. Cunningham, because that's apparently what they said.
The original, it was produced by Cunningham, Last House on the Left.
Okay.
And then let's see, I don't see Steve Miner's name on Wikipedia here, but
okay.
But anyways, directed by Craven.
Okay. Cool. I think maybe I'll switch over to the commentary here so that we're going in order, because then I have some other just random ones here that they talked about. But we can go on a journey through the film, sort of. You guys can comment too what you think. But they opening shot, they got a crane for it, which they were super surprised by. I think this turned out to be around a $3 million budget. I'm not sure if IMDb says something.
It was $3 million budget.
Yeah.
Yep.
Got a crane.
What was the box office take?
Box office was $22.1 million.
Nice.
Apparently opened.
Pretty
Nice
good.
little take.
Was number one for the weekend. They said when it opened. So. Yeah,
it was, and it beat out something kind of famous, didn't it? Beat out something.
Pretty Pink, or it was like
Pretty in Pink. It beat Pretty in Pink.
Pretty in Pink, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they got a crane for the opening shot. They were super surprised by that. They asked for it and they got it. Steve Miner did say that this was shot back in the good old days when you sort of just got the money and were let loose. And nowadays, there's a lot of just a lot of guys that need to take a look at what you're doing and approve it and give you daily approval and things like that. So, yeah, this was back in the good old days. So, yeah, that whole first shot where it sort of cranes down over the house. It's a guy standing on the crane with a Steadicam. He walks off the Steadicam and continues around the side of the house in the backyard.
That was
cool. Really cool, that opening shot.
I love that opening shot.
Did that.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
It makes the movie. It sets the whole stage, and the movie is like because it's confined to the house, which I think is the attraction of haunted house stories. It's like it makes it very insular and very creepy, I think.
Yeah.
But I was wondering, Danny, maybe you have a note on this. They go from that outside, they go then into the house. How much of the house was a set versus on location, and did they get that first shot in an actual house and then they recreated stuff later?
Yeah, no. So that's actually my next note. The entire interior of the house is a set. It's a soundstage.
Soundstage.
Only the exterior is an actual house. But then they ended up recreating the facade of the front of it on the soundstage at the end for the fire and everything that they do inside of it. So,
but then how did they get the track shot, or am I misremembering? I remember the track shot goes around the house.
You may be misremembering, because I don't know if we see it enter into that house and then we see a good visual of the inside of the house. I'm guessing it might stop before they get into the house.
I seem to remember it follows the delivery boy into the house. He's the one who drops off the groceries and finds the dead ant.
Sweet.
For the listeners at home.
I mean, I
seem to remember one shot.
I'm guessing that you're not thinking. I'm guessing there's a quick cut right when he's opening the door before he walks in. So
I liked it. I thought it was a continuous, but it may be a quick cut. I wasn't analyzing.
I thought it was like continuous.
I don't analyze.
I'll have to look at it again. But
I liked that opening. I didn't care for the credits with the negatives. They were okay, but they went too fast and they almost had like a strobing effect.
Yeah, it didn't really capture.
That
me.
was state of the art. State of the art. It showed the reverse, the negative. I think you're missing.
I think Rob's wearing lipstick.
No, it's just
his red microphone cover.
He's been deep throating his microphone again.
That's what it is.
He's very chapped. I saw. Just side note, Rob has been sending pictures of him like thigh deep in straight up sludge mud.
Yeah, just to show you guys, like I may be 10 minutes late to the podcast, and then it was like, I'm always late to the podcast, and then I was like, well, this is why, because I'm literally stuck like a like a lawn dart from heaven shot down into the primordial ooze of the Panhandle of
Is that
Florida.
part of a job description of a surveyor? I mean, that seems like you shouldn't have to be doing that.
You have to walk wherever you need a survey. You just have to walk through everything.
I just figure cameramen, you know.
The only time when I'm in mud,
the camera back there.
Yeah.
The only time when I'm in mud like that is when I'm like in it, like relaxing naked, you know.
Oh, I got a ton of it down here.
I just figured you were in the bottom of a porta potty, you know, creeping up on women as they were shitting on your face.
No, not anymore. Not since my attorney advised against it.
Yeah, you can't do that. Damn it.
Someone was actually
another turn.
Yeah. Let's turn back. So actually,
we don't talk about movies that we like. Okay, the movie was good. Move on.
Yeah.
Talk about
this movie.
So
those are the shortest
podcasts. Go watch it for free. Really good. Nothing I'll say will make it any better.
So
there were no boobs. I forgot to say that there were no boobs in this movie.
Oh yeah.
Speaking of, the only note you had about his wife was that she was flat chested. She was gorgeous. What is the matter with you?
Very pretty.
She was. I like neighbor. She was violently flat.
I don't think the wife was super. I think she had a Skeletor's facial structure going on there that was scaring me. I wasn't really into that.
I was more a fan of the neighbor more.
Yeah, the neighbor girl
definitely
more a fan of the neighbor. All right, I'm back to
was she the mother from Nightmare on Elm Street 3? Anybody?
Now that you just right when you started saying night, in my mind I was like, oh shit.
the
She's responsible. Well, not responsible, but my favorite line in all of Nightmare on Elm Street is, "Where's the fucking bourbon?" And that's to her.
Are you talking about the neighbor or the wife?
I'm talking about
the neighbor.
Patricia Arquette's mother, and she brings home.
Oh, it was.
She brings home a man.
Did you look it up, Rob?
No, but I'm fairly certain it was.
Here, I'm looking it up right now.
All right, you guys look that up.
She would be in 3 and 4. Yeah, she'd be in Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and 4.
Mary Stavin or Stavin.
Mary Stavin. Here it is. I got it. Oh wait,
she's Swedish.
Rob, your blur is just fucking with me. It keeps going in and out, in and out.
Oh, I mean,
now it stops.
Yeah, Rob, we don't care about your dirty underwear in the background. You can unblur it. You know.
Yeah. What is your? He's got this chair from the 80s, and then his bed is like from the 50s.
And then microphones.
That's beach decor.
Like I think they tied Reagan to that bed in The Exorcist.
It's not under IMDb, so I don't think she was.
All right. Well, let's. So I said the exterior of the house was on location. It was, but they did have to build a walkway. There wasn't a walkway coming straight out to the street, so they built that out of plywood, which I thought they did a good job. The only place that if you know it's plywood where you can sort of tell is when he runs and slides on his knees out the front.
Oh yeah, that was great.
You can sort of see that it's plywood there, but you can see his 2 books he wrote: Blood Dance and Sword of Bad. But sword with SWRD, Sword of Bad.
we need to make those shirts.
Yeah, and then this one was just a personal thing. I noticed this. He flips that TV dinner in the microwave. I swear he puts it. It's the timer is 30 minutes. He puts it in for. Anyone else notice that?
He totally does. Yeah.
What was microwave technology in 1985 though? I mean,
you didn't need 30 minutes.
And don't you have to take it out of the box before you put it in? I mean, you just threw the whole box in there.
That might be part of the joke, you know.
Yeah.
If there's foil in it, he's screwed.
That's true.
Yeah.
Why would there be foil on a TV dinner?
This is the 80s. There's foil on everything.
Okay.
My mom packed my lunches
after
with
half
foil.
an hour. You're supposed to take the plastic off.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going on.
Try to Google it. What was?
We're talking about sets and location. The jungle was a set, as Rob alluded to. And everyone attached
studio.
Everyone attached to this production seems to just think it was the best looking and most genius set. Although I guess Rob didn't like it, according to Rob's rundown.
I didn't say I disliked it. I just said that it definitely looked like it came from George of the Jungle, and not the good version. I'm talking like that crappy Brendan Fraser version of George of the Jungle.
But the jungle looked pretty good in it.
The trees wiggled.
Well, they built that on a soundstage, and it was actually fairly small, and so they just kept circling and changing some foreground stuff.
See that.
But it came out all right. It was obviously a lot cheaper than flying to some jungled area and shooting.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yes.
It convinced me. It worked because it was this surreal jungle anyway. It was in his stories. It was in his memories. It's in a ghostly realm. Like, it didn't, I don't know. It worked for me, I guess.
Yeah. A couple of the guys thought the fish, the whole sailfish on the back that flaps to life was stupid. But it turned out okay. It added to the charm and what this movie was.
Out of Evil Dead 2.
Yeah.
Evil 2 Dead. I was just going to say that, man. You're right on it today.
It from Dan. I was trying to steal it from him before he got to it.
Evil Dead 2.
I wasn't even going to mention it.
I was just about to say it.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities between these movies. Was that intentional, Danny? Did the commentary?
No, they didn't say anything about it being intentional. So, yeah. It's just.
Is it just that like the one is so famous? I assume Evil Dead was first. Am I right about that? Evil Dead 2.
Evil Dead 2 was 86 actually. So.
Also
87.
Oh, 87. Okay, so no, it was no.
It was released in 87. It's the kind of thing that was probably made in 6 or 5. So I don't know about.
Yeah.
And the whole thing of the medicine cabinet mirror being broken, and then there's like this new like world and portal that goes through. That was kind of Poltergeist-esque to me.
Yes.
So I was like, oh, that reminds me of Poltergeist.
The only extra bit about the fish, you'll notice there's the sailfish. There's some fishing gear. They use the fishing lure or fishing pole. Good God, I'm not a fisherman. Sorry.
Lure pole. Whatever.
And
obviously,
you live in
you're not a
Colorado.
golfer.
Isn't that where most of your meals come from?
Yeah, well,
there's a lot of fishing here.
When Ethan Wiley wrote this, he included a lot of that stuff because Steve Miner is a huge fisherman and he wanted him to have a fun time doing this, So, so he put that all in there. But, anyways,
oh my God! Freaking ears!
Shit! Oh, my ears! All right, that was really loud. Okay, that means it's time for the horror halftime.
Yeah.
All right.
For new listeners, hopefully, just in case you've never been with us before, the horror halftime is when we pick our favorite memes from our Facebook group. People submit memes every week about the show and about the movies we watched, and we give away prizes.
That's right. I guess I never do that. New listeners are probably like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah.
A little context. All
right.
And then you put your horror halftime meme in our Facebook group, Cult Classic Horror, on Facebook, and tag the hashtag horror halftime.
Yes, and we do have a horror freak of the week. Our horror freak of the week is Adam Brooks. Adam Brooks. Yes, Adam Brooks, horror freak of the week.
Awesome.
Go ahead and shoot us a message on the page with your address and shirt size, and we will send you a t-shirt for being the horror freak of the week. I didn't make it German that time, Rob. Horror freak of the week.
I'm sorry, it's okay.
Freak of the week.
Yes. While we are on this break, I do like to make announcements here and there. So thank you guys. Our Kickstarter is over. It was very successful. Thank you so much to everybody. You guys who pledged and backed will be getting your surveys by Friday, which is basically just all the information we need from you to give you all the stuff that you get. So make sure you keep your eyes on your email and that you respond to those and fill them out so that we can get your stuff to you as quickly as possible. Aside from the surveys, you will have the option to go into our add-on store or our pre-order catalog or whatever you want to call it, to pick up more stuff. So, for instance, if you got that at the Blu-ray level, but it didn't come with a poster and you want a poster, this is your chance to go ahead and grab one of the posters for another $10. We'll have all the posters in there. If you didn't pledge that level, but you want to come to the premiere, that's an add-on in there too. We're going to have even a few things that weren't part of the Kickstarter, like wall canvases. We'll have some wall canvases in there. You could get a t-shirt if you want. So pay attention to that. That will be live by the end of the week. Speaking of the quote-unquote premiere, we're calling it an advanced screening now because it is not really a public premiere. It is a private event by ticket only or invite only. So that will be available as an add-on. You can purchase that. It will get you into the advanced screening, which is going to be here in Denver, Colorado on September 24th at the Alamo Drafthouse at 6 p.m. So you do have to pay for your own airfare, travel, room, whatever you need to get to it in Colorado. But once you're there, you can get in for free.
There are
rumors
that I won't be there.
You can get in for the whatever you pay for the ticket. Those of you who pledged at that level will obviously get in for what you pledged for, so you will not have to pay any more than that. Yes, and actually we will all be assembling at the premiere for the first time in history. We will all be in the same room together.
All 4 of us here in the podcast will be there.
Yes.
It's a monumental occasion.
It really is.
America will never forget.
Party at my house. I got the hot tub ready. I got the beers.
He's bragging about
we're good
the
to
hot
go.
They're probably.
He has a hot tub.
We will be hanging out at Scotty's house. If you are, if we know you and like you, you can come chill with us.
There's a lot of things to do in Denver too.
Yeah, a lot of things to do in Denver when you're dead.
Exactly.
Good movie.
I say we all go to Danny's house and see who survives Steve.
That's a good
Whoever can make
game.
it past Steve.
Yes.
He'll be in heaven. He won't know who to bite or how many times. All right, so yes, so please pay attention to that, and hopefully you can join us at the advanced screening of the film. Yes, that concludes the horror halftime.
Yeah.
All right.
Last thing I want to say for the onset. So the
I'm not done with my onset stuff.
Okay, well, one little tidbit I want to put in there. So the Victorian style home is in California, Monrovia, California, on Melrose Avenue, built in 1887, and it was actually owned by 2 Los Angeles firemen. And they let them use it, but they had to do like a whole exterior like renovation on it, painted it, added like boarding on the front yard with the wrought iron fence. They did like stone pillars. They like redid the whole back of the house. And like they had landscapers come in and plant flowers and trees, and they had to seed and plant all new grass and sod. So they really did a number on the outside to make it look nice.
And throughout this whole commentary and featurette, it's constantly brought up, oh, we did what we could with this, the budget this, the budget that. I'm like, don't complain about your budget when you're redoing exteriors of houses and bringing in landscapers and building wrought iron fences, Yeah.
It's known as Millsview Victorian House, and it's still there today. So you can go tour it.
Where is there? Where is it at?
It's Monrovia, California,
outside of LA.
Built in 1887.
The pool in the back actually is not at that house. It's a different location entirely. So they did rebuild the fence and pillars in the back in front of the pool location to make it look like it ties in with the house. So they just shot creatively around that. I already mentioned how Steve Miner said they sort of got the money and were let loose. The studio honestly didn't know that this was going to be a horror comedy. They were expecting sort of just a straightforward horror movie to come at them when they were finished, and they say that they were pleasantly surprised. They were okay with it. They thought it was a good film still, but I just thought that was interesting. No one was keeping tabs.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Obviously George Wendt is in this. He's probably, at least in my eyes, because I grew up.
I love George Wendt.
I grew up watching Cheers, or my mom did before my bedtime. It's so George Wendt to me is the biggest name in this. I don't know. Katz might have done more, but I'm not sure.
I mean, we know William Katt from Carrie. That's the first thing that we covered with him in it. He played one of the lead guys, but he's been in a lot of things, but not a lot of notable things.
Yeah.
But he was a big name. But yeah, George Wendt for sure.
As soon as Norm showed up.
Yeah, Norm and Cheers.
He was doing Cheers at this time, and it is the first to admit that he's I just got super lucky with Cheers, and they did some interviews with on this featurette, he looked pretty rough. I mean, a lot of them, how can you not look rough from yourself like 30 years ago? But a couple of
he's probably like 76 years old right now or something.
Some people look exceptionally rough. Like he looked pretty rough. Kat looked fairly rough, and then who looked really rough was Kay, his wife.
Oh, really?
That Carmelo's hard for.
Oh, yeah.
Right now. Like Carmelo's watching Pornhub right now.
Yeah, I can't find anything that looks like her. I did find something interesting, though. George Wendt was in a show. I don't know if it's still on, but he was in a show called Clipped that started, I think, a year or two, maybe 2 or 3 years ago. Now it's probably off the air by now. But this guy I went to high school with, this friend of mine from high school, co-starred on the show with him.
Holy crap!
Oh, wow!
It was Mike Castle, and he was always an actor, but I guess that was his big time. I don't know if he's still
nice.
Mike Castle.
George Wendt. That's awesome. That connection's right there. Holy crap!
I don't know if Rob caught this, but the sergeant in Vietnam has been in a lot of stuff, and
Big Ben.
No, the sergeant.
Oh, the sergeant, the actual sergeant.
He's the only person in both House movies. And then he was Kevin Costner's dad in Field of Dreams.
He was. I didn't catch it, but now that you say it, I see it.
Yes.
It's because when you only see Costner.
That's the only. Yeah, no. I only see Costner in most things that I watch.
Do you see James Earl Jones in that movie? You think it's
I want Rob
James
to
Earl
get.
Jones is in that movie?
I want Rob to get a portrait of Costner tattooed on him.
Oh,
that's what I want.
I mean, if you're paying.
Oh, you would do it?
So.
Oh, of course. I want Costner from Bull Durham, though.
Oh, okay.
So the sergeant is in House 2 as well. So no one else in this was in the second one.
That's what they said. That's what they said.
I do see that Norm's best friend, Cliff, is in the second one. He makes an appearance. John Ratzenberger.
Yeah. So Richard Mall is the the Skeletor guy. He made his his face known on Night Court. And he's like 6'7", 6'9", something like that. He's super tall.
Very tall.
And that's all I have for him.
He kind of looks like the guy that plays Joe on Family Guy. I forgot what his name is.
I guess.
But he kind of has his same kind of facial features.
Rob left us.
Oh no!
He can't fend. He just walked away.
Rob can't. He can't respond or fend for himself because he's not near his microphone.
Oh, we should let him have it.
But he can hear us.
Oh, he dropped his big red penis.
What happened? No,
I said Rob left. It. Rob left. He's back now. Escaped. All right. The movie that's on the TV in the background when he's writing is called. I believe it's called "Don't Look in the Basement," and it's just some indie film that the guys knew someone who made.
I have seen "Don't Look in the Basement."
Have you?
It is
really
yes. When I saw it in house, I had flashbacks. My friends and I in high school, we used to have this. We made like an Excel spreadsheet and we called it the Camogram scale, and that was how we measured the enjoyability of a movie, not its quality, the enjoyability.
Okay.
And we watched "Don't Look in the Basement," and it is the lowest scoring movie we ever reviewed.
Oh my God!
It commits the greatest sin any movie can commit. It's boring. It's so boring.
Is it horror?
It's supposed to be, but instead it's just. And you know what? The conceit of it, the premise is pretty creepy. It's sort of this idea that this remote mental institution has sort of been taken over by the patients, but it doesn't, like, the execution's just boring and slow and nothing really happens. And in the end, they go into the basement. There's really nothing in there. There's like paperwork in there. It was bad, guys. It was really bad.
Maybe we'll have to cover that one of these times.
No, let's not.
I would watch that again if you paid me. No, I guess I would for the fans. I
want to say something about the movie. I mean, I know we're kind of going over some facts, but when the realtor's showing Roger his aunt's house, because she just died, and because he wants to sell it, and they go into the shed and he just like shoots the harpoon gun right by his head.
Yeah,
I'd be like livid. I'd be like, "What the fuck? Are you almost killed?" And like he's like
the best real estate agent ever.
Yeah, and Roger doesn't do anything. He's like, "Oh."
They said that's written in there to set the tone. You know.
And the realtor is just
was funny.
Whoops.
Yeah.
And I guess it sets the tone, but I would have been like, I'm going to feed you that fucking harpoon
I would be
gun
pissed.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, they said it was really one of the most ridiculous parts of the film, and it just sort of drove it home.
It was really great.
Roger's like, well, whatever.
Yeah.
It was the first clue that the movie would be like comical. There's a lot of setup that's actually quite dramatic before that.
Yeah.
You know, a missing kid and stuff. There's really nothing funny about this guy's divorce or his child going missing.
Yeah.
And up to that point, it's actually very like ominous. He's in the house and you're like, oh man, this is where the haunting's going to happen. I went into this knowing nothing. Like I knew zero about the movie, so I did not know it was a horror comedy. And part of me half expected, the walls are going to start bleeding and it's going to get gross. But it never, that was the first clue then I had. It wasn't.
You didn't see too much gore.
Goofy, yeah. So they obviously, we talked, it's all practical effects. They had that big rubber monster in the closet that it's a shame that they only saw it for the war monster, they call it. A shame that we only see it for a few seconds and not in great detail, because it had like bullet fingers and the bodies were supposedly looked like they had been napalmed.
Well, it was like 18 feet long and like fully, operated, like 15 people it took to operate it, and so it really. And
they at some point in the middle of production, the FX team was kicked out of the space they had. I don't know if they were renting some kind of space, and the fire department shut them down. They said, "Look, you're only supposed to have one bucket of acetone or something. You have 10, and you have all these things, and you're doing all this, and it's not safe." And so they were, instead of being shut down instantly, they were given 1 day to clear out, and that was when they were like putting this thing together. And so I guess they had all hands on deck for like a 27-hour day to get this thing put together, and in
That's
order
awesome,
to move it out of the space. And so what they ended up doing was moving to James, what's his last name? James Cummins, I believe, is effects. Technically, the effects guy on this. It was a whole crew of people, but he unfortunately passed away. But they moved to his backyard. They were in like his courtyard with all this stuff, painting out in the open under trees and stuff, and which they got it to work. But yeah, it's just crazy how they put all that work into that monster. It's all kind of pneumatically moved and pushed forward with these poles and everything, and then you just see it for about 5 seconds and only some flashes of it. So
yeah,
and of course these days that would just be CG and it wouldn't be as difficult.
Yeah. Of course, we see it the first time where he gets clawed, and then we see it the second time where where George Wentz up there. What's George Wentz's name? Oh yeah, Harold. And I love that part. Like I was totally wrong. It was a big raccoon that I saw. I was wrong. Yes. And I captured it. It's right here in my closet.
The size of a dog or something.
Yeah. Well, William Catt.
Size of a Saint Bernard.
William Catt said that is probably his favorite scene he's ever filmed in his whole career. He was saying.
Really?
Just that scene. Fun. Yeah, he just loved it so much.
I love that scene. He's like, "Here, you shoot him, and I'll be over here." And he's like, "Oh, okay." That scene was great.
Some of these I am going in order here, but some are sort of random because they threw them out. It was a 40-day shoot about. Mark Ahlberg was the cinematographer. This was one of his early work, but he did do cinematography for Reanimator, just as a little tidbit there. And then, one of the cool things they had with those tools that followed him, the gardening tools.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that was a cool little thing they put in there. They were not powered. They were moved by like fishing lines, so there was nothing CG about it, just the way they lighted it and sprayed some of the line black and stuff. They were able to keep it out of there, which amazes me.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that's crazy.
So about the floating lawn care equipment, that reminds me, and maybe you saw something about the commentary, but I observed that those kind of Salvador Dali-esque paintings he has all over the house kind of foreshadow what's going on. Is that's intentional, I assume?
Well,
oh yeah,
it is. They had a William Stout is the name of the painter they used for those paintings. He actually worked for Disney at the time, so couldn't be their production designer, but they had him create. They just said, "Hey, we just need these paintings that are as weird and far out and as possible because this woman has gone crazy." And then, so they had him just paint a bunch of them and put him in the set there. Then it's sort of funny they had him do that the main one that we see, the clock one, and then everything that and the kid behind the mirror.
They see a son in the mirror.
Yeah, so that one's supposed to tell us that, go look in the mirror and everything. They said, hey, so this one's supposed to be sort of unfinished, and so him being a normal artist doesn't have like just half their painting unfinished. They just they'll have like the whole thing covered, but like not all the details added. And so that's how he delivered it. And they're like, no, we need like large white space on this. And he's like, oh, okay, that's not really how it works. She's like, but I'll go ahead and do that. Which I almost didn't really even notice. But if you look, there's like the bottom corner is unfinished. It's just white, So
yeah, freaking horror movies love unfinished paintings. They just love that shit.
Yes.
So, but yeah, so then Tools on Strings, the original. So going to the wife creature now, the effects. They were going to do this a big elaborate thing where her skin flaps were basically made with like water-filled sacks. But just so it would have this cool little way it moved. But then they went back on that. I guess it was just a huge undertaking and that would have cost a lot of money. So they went back on that. And I still think she turned out all right. If you're going for this comedy horror look. So
I think she looked great.
Yeah. I think she looked very obscene for sure. Oh my god.
And she was that and the severed hand, which I guess was her severed hand, is the most Evil Dead 2 thing about this.
Yeah. I mean, that's the obvious one, of course.
I mean, I guess I could say that Evil Dead 2 was more like House because House came out first.
Yeah. Let's not
split hairs here, Rob. I think that Miner.
I think somebody went and watched House.
I think Miner had
Rob's mic's cutting out. What's going on?
I think Miner I think Steve Miner had an advanced look at the shooting of Evil Dead 2, and then probably stole some things. And
Evil Dead 2 was probably filmed like 2 or 3 years earlier, and just like languished in editing and released forever.
I actually think it was about a year earlier. So I think it was filmed in '86, came out in '87. So speaking of filming, they did film this. I mean, it's 40 days is a while, but they were supposedly doing about 3 to 4 pages a day, 30, 35 setups. So they were like cruising on this set. Yeah, it was crazy how many shots they were getting in. I'm sort of amazed by that. The little boy with the mullet is the director's kid, Steve Miner's kid.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
he was kind of.
He was really cute. He was also a really good actor.
Yeah,
or just genuinely freaked out.
Well, no expression on his face.
Yeah, Steve Miner,
was pretty good.
Steve Miner said he's not like an actor, and he didn't really want to put his kids in the film, but to get across to the kid this young, he had to sort of like get in his business and yell at him and be like, "No, you're supposed to do this," and so he's like, "I don't know who's going to listen to me besides my own kid. I'm just going to use my own kid."
There you go.
Right. Yeah, because the kid,
my kids don't listen to me at all.
Crying and screaming like he's genuinely scared, and it's like,
well, he said
he's almost too young to act that good.
Oh, it's true. When he cries, when they're sitting on the floor before he lays him on the couch, he said they got him to cry by like taking his juice away or something.
Jeez. That was funny how Rob said, like his mom is just using him to babysit and is a big time dick tease. But then of course he starts babysitting and then he doesn't really watch him. And then there's that point where the kid's watching TV and it's Roger's wife that's on the TV show there. And he's like, oh, my God, there's my wife. But then, I don't know if you guys heard it. It probably wasn't appropriate for kids, but the guy in the TV shows says, I can't help the fact that I've been a male prostitute all my life.
Yeah. So
I'm like,
good.
wait. So I actually had to rewind that. Did he just say that? And the kid's just watching.
I didn't catch that. Yeah,
it was so good.
That.
Great
Rob,
soap opera.
Oh, for sure.
Rob, when we take your White Claw away, do you cry the way that kid cries when he gets his juice taken away?
Nobody takes it away.
We're trying to see how we can get Rob to emote on screen. We'll just take his White Claw away. That's all we'll do.
No.
You should pay him to endorse that product. Hey,
they should
can we talk
pay
about
me.
how
Pizza Hut knows us too.
Yeah, they do.
What?
Sorry, go ahead,
Pizza Hut.
Carmelo. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, can we talk about how this woman steamrolls this perfect stranger into babysitting her kid? Like,
Yeah, that's not normal.
No, I would have said no under normal circumstances, let alone when the house is trying to murder me. I would have been like, fuck the fuck off.
Yeah, I'd be like, no. I'd be like,
he never
stop.
leaves the house. He just never leaves the house
Yeah.
with the kid. Just like he gets sucked up through the chimney, and he's never like, "Oh, we'll just go.
That
We'll
was
leave a
great,
note
too.
for your mom on the front porch." Like,
Yeah.
no, we're just gonna ride this out.
Just like fuck all the way off, lady. Take your kid and get the fuck out.
Yeah, get all the stuff you just handed me. Here, have it back. Get the hell out.
She leaves all that shit too. She picks up the kid and she leaves all that garbage, the toys and the diapers and shit.
I
Just
know.
leaves it.
And it's that's sort of a weird writing thing, or abnormal thing. To suspension of disbelief is a little hard there, you know.
Yeah.
But
And it works because this movie doesn't take itself even a little
Exactly.
bit seriously.
No,
Which is great.
I love how this movie just goes crazy. It's awesome.
It is.
Yeah.
And then, of course, like the hands on the kid's back, and Roger like shoos the mom away. Like, I got this. Don't. I just met you. Your son's in my bathroom. Stay over there. And then rips the hand off and flushes it down the toilet.
well,
But,
I love how Scotty just explains what has happened in the movie sometimes.
it's just that wouldn't happen. Like he would shoo the wife away. Like the wife would be, not the wife, the lady, the mom of the kid would be like on his ass. Like, no, what are you doing with my kid?
Yeah.
Yeah, alone in the bathroom, I thought like, oh man, here it comes. She's gonna be like, you're a pedophile. Get away from the kid.
This was back in the 80s when, as long as the kid was within like 100 yards, and walls don't matter.
I don't know about that.
Oh, it's true. I mean, yeah. This is the 80s where pedophilia wasn't really frowned upon.
Yeah.
The views of Robert O'Neill do not necessarily reflect the views of the Cult Classic Horror Show. I'm going to try to limit that disclaimer to once per episode, and I just used it.
Try to, yes. Speaking of the chimney scene, it was filmed basically almost flat, so they're not in an up and down chimney. They're, sort of being drugged almost on a flat thing. The towel over the sailfish was not really meant to happen. It wasn't ever going to happen, but they filmed it out of sequence and then realized, oh shit, like there's not a hole in this fish's head later on. Like we got to put a towel over it or something, So that's how that came about. I'm just going to zip through a few because I want to, I'm almost done with them here. It was funny in Hong Kong. I forgot who went there. It was, it might have been William Cat went there, and they had a billboard out downtown that was advertising House. So it had the cover art and everything, but then it had a ton of characters, like Chinese characters or Japanese characters, to be the title. And he's like, is that really how many it takes to say House? And someone's like, oh, no. In Hong Kong, it's technically titled Don't Go Into the House After Midnight.
I saw that. That's awesome. So they can just rename the movie there, I guess.
Yeah.
That's true though. At midnight,
zipping through a couple. The original ending had him fighting with a monster underwater before he finds his son. The tentacle that gets him in the mirror is shot in reverse. They are filming in an actual pond on location when he comes out of the water into Vietnam to retrieve his son. They had 2 twin boys that played his son so that they could get around them labor laws.
That's right.
The guy in the skeleton suit was a super tall, skinny guy that just Steve Miner happened to know that was like a tennis coach. And so he was sort of went through hell being in that mask that like smushed the shit out of his nose because it's like an inverted skeleton mask, So they couldn't get, I was going to say they needed to have Mama there to grease him up, but tall, skinny guy, there's really no connection. I've already ruined it. I'm just going to move on.
Yeah, people don't know.
A few more. They built an actual cliff set for him to hang off of with a blue screen below him to put the ocean on, and then a matte painting above him, obviously for the House of Stars, which, I'm going to pause myself for a second. Obviously, totally looks fake, but looks really cool at the same time, like nostalgic in 80s, that matte painting of him, I think. Kane Hodder was the stunt coordinator.
Yes, I saw that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, stunt coordinator.
Another Friday the 13th person in this movie.
Yeah, and I must be a huge Kane Hodder fan because my wife was like, "Oh, isn't it that Friday the 13th guy you like?" It's like, yeah, I guess I don't talk about him always.
Well, my absolute last fact still has to do with him. He was in the black trash bag getting beaten with a shovel by Steve Catt, and he said it was a real shovel, and he had a helmet on, but he was still sort of wailing on him. Yeah,
holy crap.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's hilarious. He's a tough motherfucker, though. I imagine he'd have to get hit pretty hard. Yeah.
Hit me harder. Come on.
He was like, "Cut! I'm the stunt coordinator now. Hit me harder, you little bitch."
That's right.
So yes, those are my notes on House. Other comments?
I was going to say I was reading here. I know we kind of touched on the monsters, but there was a total of 7 monsters that were designed for this production. The obese witch, the zombified corpse of Big Ben, 3 demonic kids, the flying skull face monster, which the flying skull face monster kind of had a little Army of Darkness feel to it.
It's a stop motion that
we saw. Yeah,
I could talk about that too. They originally had a puppet built for that and tried filming it all with puppet moving and everything, and the wings didn't come out right, and they went to all this work, and they ended up just doing animation stop motion at the end. So, gives it that Army of Darkness look, because obviously they use that in Army of Darkness.
I love that. And then I love, which is almost Army of Darkness-esque too, which is with the stop motion. You had the double gauge shotgun, which is kind of throwback too.
Yeah, it was very cool.
And then he takes it out of Roger's hand and then shoots the rope that he's belaying down.
Yeah,
that I just love that part too. But yeah. So then of course the Mountain Marlin and then the War Demon, that was the biggest one that came from the closet. Constructed, like Danny was saying, there was 17 special effects artists on this movie, and then all those were made over a period of 3.5 months before the movie was shot. So it took them a long time to make all that, and they were low on the budget.
Yes.
Yeah,
low on budget.
I know.
Of all the problems with this movie, it didn't look, and there are very few actually. I misspoke. I thought the movie was very good, but I never thought, oh, this looks cheap or low budget. I thought some parts looked kind of 80s, like stop motion is, you don't see it a lot. And it was, but no point was I like, wow, they really cheaped out on this. This looks like junk.
Oh, yeah.
No, it looks great. The movie.
And we do that with a lot of movies. We're like, God, they really cheaped it. Like I could think of a handful right now that we say that about, but this one I did not think that about at all.
Yeah. No, it was good. I am excited to get on to the rest of them and go through them.
If I can give my final thoughts on it, I liked parts of that really stretch my imagination. I liked the Vietnam monster at the end. I thought he looked really cool, but I really enjoyed how you had that big closet monster. You had these tentacle monsters coming out of the window of the bathroom, and I kind of like that you don't see a ton of them. It leaves a lot to the imagination, but all the different. There was like a claw and a tentacle at the same time, and it really makes you think like, oh, what could this thing look like? And then he goes into this black abyss, and he ends up in a pool of water, and then he comes out in the pool. That kind of surrealist stuff really excites me because it really gets my imagination running, and it's very cool to see how creative people can be. Even with budgetary constraints, they were able to kind of stretch the walls of reality.
Well, they said,
it was 86, so it was like a $3 million budget, and at least, I don't know, 1.6 of that was just in cocaine.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
They said that the black background repelling is, because they had no budget, but I think it came out good that way, like you said.
I think everything came out good.
Yeah.
It's funny how sometimes creative or sometimes practical constraints actually spur creativity. Like, would that scene have been very much improved if they had some like goofy background painted or something like that. I mean, maybe they could have come up with something cool, but the darkness, and then the darkness leading to water, and then that water being in Nam, like it's very neat how they rolled with that, and they used it very well.
Yeah. It seemed like the budget was higher, like more like $5 million, but it was, I guess, $3 million went a longer way in '86 than it would today. So, and Rob, Brian De Palma wasn't on set, so the cocaine might not have been as much in use.
No, I mean it was just as much in use. It just wasn't discounted because Brian De Palma wasn't on set. They had to pay like they had to pay retail for an 8-ball.
Yeah. See, yeah, exactly.
All right, it's time for our final segment. What did you watch?
Well,
I know exactly what I watched for this segment. I didn't even have to look it up.
Oh, really?
We went over this already.
All right, Rob, you start us off then. Go ahead.
Please.
I mean, you don't have to. Okay, I rewatched Pet Sematary. It wasn't as good as when it was in the theater, but I didn't watch anything horror this time. But I did watch the new Ben Affleck Netflix movie, Triple Frontier.
I watched that a while back.
It was okay. I mean, it could have been really good, but I just thought it was And then, like, it's inexcusable to put in the poor man's Ted Hardy with that Charles Dunham guy or whatever.
You mean Tom Hardy?
Yeah, he always says Ted Hardy.
I thought the poor man's Tom Hardy was Logan Marshall Green.
I don't know who that is.
He's from Upgrade. Remember that?
I don't know.
You gotta watch that movie. If you haven't watched Upgrade, you gotta watch it. It's so fucking good.
If Hardy was in this, it would have been so. Charlie Hunnam or whatever is who.
Hunnam's good.
Yeah, but he's the poor man's Tom Hardy.
No, he's not. He looks nothing like Tom Hardy.
He plays a similar character.
Oh, get out of town.
No, it was okay. I wish I could say that it was. Right. I was hoping it was going to be great, but it was just okay.
Well, is that it? Is that all you watched?
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
All right. I watched. I didn't watch any movies. I just continuing on with The Handmaid's Tale on Hulu, which is really good. There's a lot of thrilling stuff in it, and blood and gore at times too. So, but it's more of a drama, so it's pretty good with the wifey.
Okay. I watched I Saw the Devil. I haven't seen that before, so I finally watched it. Which is does you guys know what that is?
No. I don't know.
Oh no! It really?
I've heard of it, but I've never seen the trailer. Or anything.
Okay, all right. It's on Shudder. It's it's in Korean subtitles, so you guys can. Or it's in you have to watch it with subtitles. It's good. It's pretty good. Let's see. It's the main guy from the original Old Boy is in this one. So I don't know if you guys saw the original Old Boy, but
Brolin.
Nope. That's the remake of Old Boy.
Oh yeah.
All right. Anyways, and then I watched a couple episodes of the new Stranger Things, and which is pretty decent, I guess. It's all right. And then I watched. I'm trying to think if there's anything. I think that's it. I watched an episode of Peaky Blinders. I might get into that.
Oh yeah, nice.
My wife's been watching. I guess season 4 now. She likes it.
All right.
Peaky Blinders, nice.
How about you, Carmela?
My wife turned me on to Veronica Mars, so we've been watching Veronica Mars a lot.
All right.
I told these guys separately that Kristen Bell and I share a birthday, so I feel like we're kind of soulmates. And I warned my wife about that, and she said she didn't care. She wants me to watch the show anyway. So
okay, all right.
Mars,
yeah.
And I watched a little bit of the. I know it's kind of hyped up, but I watched a little bit of Shark Week, so gotta turn it on from time to time.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, I think that wraps us up. I want to talk about Kickstarter, but it's pretty much over. So, but we will have
I guess keep just keep an eye out for your reward surveys. And if you missed the Kickstarter and you want to pre-order She Walks the Woods or some of the other rewards, we will have the pre-order store open until the end of August, and we'll be advertising that shortly. You'll be able to get such things in the Blu-ray if you missed it, or tickets to the premiere, which is September 24th. At 6 p.m. at the Alamo Draft House in Denver, Colorado.
Yeah, there's 3 of them. It's a Sloan's Lake.
Yes,
so, but
right.
yeah, well, the details will be sent out.
It's mostly one that's in Denver. It's the one that's mostly located in Denver.
So pay attention to that. Also, patreon.com/Cult Classic Horror if you want to support what we're doing and get access to some extras. We're building that up as we speak. It's going to be even more filled with extras. So we'd love for you to support us and join us there. Follow us at Danny Bonin, at Scotty Bonin, at O'Neilio with 4 O's, at Chimera's Comics, also at Cult Classic Horror and at CC Horror on Twitter. And don't forget to submit your memes for the horror halftime using the hashtag horror halftime, so that you can be next week's Freak of the Week and win a t-shirt and some awesome gear. So, all right, guys, House 2 next week.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us.
Take care.
Later, guys.
Later.
Don't you blame the movies. Movies don't create psychos. Movies make psychos more creative.
Oh, yes. There will be blood.